Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moises Esparza. I'm the exhibitions manager for the 28th edition of the San Diego Latino Film Festival. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for one of our virtual live Q&As. I'm going to introduce our guests who are representing the film Missing in Brooks County. Co-director Lisa Molomot and Eddie Canales from the South Texas Human Rights Center. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Eddie.
Hi,
How you doing?
Eddie, tell everyone where you're at. I think we should start with that.
I'm sorry?
Oh, tell everyone how you found service today.
Oh, okay. So I started about an hour ago to charge up my phone, and I was out at the cemetery, and it wouldn't charge. So then I said, okay, I said, I got to go. I'm going to go to the McDonald's, see if I can plug in my computer, and it's not doing there's no in dining, dining in. So I said, what do I do now? Okay, so I'm running down the street and I see this store and it says Radio Shack, and I said, my God, where are these Radio Shacks at? So I pulled in here, and what's your first name? Huh? This guy has really been very, very nice to me. He started charging up my phone, and I said, oh, this is going to work. It's not going to work. And then finally I brought my computer in, and here we are. I'm plugged into him, and really it's that's why I was late, and I really apologize for that happening. But I didn't want to fail you, Lisa, on this situation. No, it's just me and Lisa, and I told Kate, Dr. Spradley, I said, I gotta go. Bye.
Are you doing exhumations or cemetery mapping? What are you guys doing?
It was we're doing an exhumation, and in here in Zapata County, there's about an attempt to extract 20 unidentified bodies that are buried here in Zapata over the last 15 to 20 years, and what the county officials here have been very, very cooperative, very gracious, giving us maps and everything, and they even provided a backhoe today and yesterday. But there was the graves were off kilter, where they're supposed to be, they weren't. So it was really amazing in terms of, and then I had to, and I do all the kind of like the front work for Dr. Spradley in terms of, coming in here, talking to the public officials. This is what we're doing. How many death certificates do you have here of unidentified? But they were very, very cooperative. They had maps. What's the most amazing thing, Moises here, and Lisa, is that Zapata this is new Zapata. There's an old Zapata where they had to flood that city to build a dam. We're right on the border. And so they had to exhume in 1950, 51, 52, they had to exhume all the bodies out of the old cemetery, all the burials out of the old cemetery, and transfer them to the new cemetery. that was a phenomenal job that this community did, 50, 60, 70 years ago, and, so one of the ladies, her name is Pepita. She's been working at the county treasurer's office, who's in charge of the cemetery. And she's been 30 years. She's been there 30 years, and she's been incredible as a resource. So this is part of some of the work that the South Texas Human Rights Center does in terms of what the film is about, in terms of the identification, of trying to find the missing and the unidentified. So this is a project we've been carrying on for about 6-7 years now with Texas State University, which houses Operation Identification, and we're part of a Forensic Border Coalition in terms of doing this effort in all these counties to find the unidentified, to find all the burials of the unidentified, and start the process of identification. So it's really incredible work and groundbreaking work that Dr. Spradley, with her Operation Identification and the Forensic Anthropology Center at Texas State, that we're undertaking along with South Texas Human Rights Center, and it's a very deliberate process in terms of their methods of finding the graves and stuff. And firsthand, we check the public records and see what's there, and then try to coincide all the data. So it's been quite a day, and so I'm glad I made it, Lisa and Moises. I didn't want to just say, forget it, I'm not going to get on. So I'm glad you guys were patient.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Eddie. And I'm glad you made it. And I think that provides maybe what you described, your work that you've been doing today connects maybe to the context of the film. So Lisa, I guess my question to you is, what is your entry point into what's happening in Brooks County with this migrant crisis?
So Jeff Bemis, the co-director, and I learned about the work of a forensic scientist who was doing just what Eddie's talking about, who was doing exhumations in Brooks County and trying to identify the unknown remains of migrants who have died in Brooks County, and repatriate the remains back to the family. So we had heard about this work, and we met this woman, and she took us down to Brooks County. And so the minute we got to Brooks County, we wanted to know, where's the border? We'd like to see the border. And we learned that we are 70 miles north of the border in Brooks County. The border is nowhere near Brooks County. And so we learned, okay, this is a very unusual situation. And we met Eddie, we met a rancher, we met the sheriff, and we just learned more in those first few days. And we, I think initially we thought we were making a film about a forensic scientist, and like every documentary, we, quickly shift gears as soon as we met more people, learned more about the situation. And we went back to Brooks County on about 15 trips, I think, over the course of 4 years. And we met the Romans, the main story in our film. We met the Romans through our website, actually. They found our website and reached out to us because they were looking for their, Michelle, who's the sister-in-law, was looking, was doing work for the family, basically, and trying to get more information. And she emailed us, and we were in touch with Eddie immediately, but we also knew we were going to Texas the next week. So we met Michelle and Omar and the rest of the Roman family, told them what we were doing with the film. They told us the story of Omero's disappearance. And, we decided to work together after that first meeting, and we just began filming with them. So that was really lucky that our film happens to be called Missing in Brooks County. And Michelle was Googling Missing Brooks County, and our website came up. And, we had been filming with other families, but it's very delicate, and it's, these are very personal and very difficult stories to share. And as soon as we met the Romans, we knew they were the right family because it seemed like they were ready to share their story. And We were much more comfortable working with them than with some of the other families we were working with, where we just didn't understand if it was healthy for them to be participating in our film, just because it's so difficult, you know, to be thinking about these situations so much. So it really worked out well that we connected with them. Oh, your mic.
Sorry, there was a plane passing by.
Oh.
Sorry about that. At what point in the, I guess, at what point in the documentary planning process or during filming did you figure out that Eddie would be maybe the nexus of this documentary as a subject and and through all his efforts that he's doing in that region?
Well, he doesn't know this, but I was the one that said, I think Eddie is our connection with all of these stories, with all of the families, but also, you know, Kate Bradley, the Operation Identification. And we need to start the film with him and end the film with him and have him be like our connection to these different, you know, he's the hub, basically. And that was me. That was my idea. So, you know, it's funny with documentary, though, you know, you have all this footage and you begin editing, and it can be about a million, you know, 1,000 different films, right? And the film that we chose to tell was really the film that we wanted to tell, and we felt, you know, really was the film that it needed to be. But we did a lot of filming with Eddie, and we just kept filming more. But we filmed with a lot of other people too. It's just, you know, we really saw that he was connected to all of these other stories. So.
And Moises, may I say that missing in Brooks County, you know, is, you know, and it's singular to the families, to a couple of families, but it can be, you know, it can be thousands of families, you know, in terms of Brooks County, in terms of what that county is basically the you know, it's where most of the deaths has happened. What's been documented by the Brooks County Sheriff's Department is, you know, we're at over 100 since about 2004, you know, of bodies that have been recovered. I mean, over 800. I'm sorry, and that is just, you know, what's been recovered. So, you know, there can be, you know, 1,000 families, you know, or you know, at least, you know, more than that, saying my family member went missing in Brooks County. It is represents the corridor of death. You know, they in terms of how many people have died there trying to circumvent the checkpoint, as Lisa mentioned. So, and this is something that is, it's a humanitarian crisis that happens on the entire border. You know, somebody can write a story about missing in Zapata County, missing in Starr County, and, you know, in terms of the efforts that we've been doing. So that's, I think it's an incredible effort undertaken by Operation Identification to really, you know, get these bodies that have been buried, and they have no names. Everybody should have a right to a name, you know, and that's the extent in terms of the forensic side of it, and connecting families, you know, through that forensic effort, and using DNA, using as many tools as these forensic anthropologists, you know, can use regarding, you know, personal effects that are found in their body bags and stuff like that. Right now, searching for the remains, or searching for Roman's family, his brother, is where we're at. You know, I talked to Michelle, and I talked to Roman a couple of days ago. You know, they're still searching. They don't give up, and that's the story of 1,000 people that have not given up in terms of trying to find their loved one. So we are very, very, you know, our effort is not singular to just this situation, but I think it's a phenomena that occurs all over the world in terms of how migrants go missing. But we're, you know, right now we're in people are trying to say that there's a crisis and that there's a surge and at the border. It's children that are trying to connect with their family and that were held back and by previous administration in terms of their efforts to reach their families, and the families left because of conditions in their own countries. And it's not a choice, it's forced migration that people have. So we're dealing with those realities and those aspects of it, and we're still trying to save lives and through water stations and the best way we can, and doing a hotline that trying to locate the people that go missing more immediately.
Yeah, has the documentary's release affected the run at festivals? Has it affected your work at the South Texas Human Rights Center, Eddie? And if so, in what ways?
Well, I think the most important thing is it's all about the families. In terms, that the families are the reason we do this work. There's a reason Dr. Spradley does this work. The reason that I do this work. And I think, for Jeff and Lisa, to zero in, on telling that story, it is about the families in terms of their search for their missing loved ones, and telling the migration story in terms of, how innocent it is in terms of the actual trek of people crossing a border. And there's nothing criminal about it. It's people trying to connect with their own family members. So, the border divides communities, and that's the harsh reality that we're dealing with. So the film is very important because it does give the stories of the families. And if I told Jeff and I know he related to Lisa that my daughter was showing it to the family, internally to the family, to a Spanish-speaking person, and it's in English, and right away she texts me and says, "You need Spanish subtitles."
We're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there.
and Jeff said right away, "We're trying to get there, Eddie." But that is really, in terms of being able to have that audience, in addition to the audience in this country, a English-speaking audience. So it's very important that that it comes out in Spanish so that people understand what has happened, and we're telling their story.
Lisa, you have so many different perspectives in the documentary. The families, Eddie's, ranchers, border patrol agents, forensic examiners. I guess, what were there different, what made you have so much access to everyone while you were making this documentary? Were you familiar with the area already? How were you able to navigate these different different, I guess, channels while making the documentary? And then ultimately, tell me a little bit about the balance that you decided on when figuring out what story threads to follow with the documentary.
Yeah, in terms of access, we just kept going back to Brooks County. And so after a while, people, we kind of just blended in. I think people got really used to us but trusted us. I think that was part of it, is they didn't know who we were at first. Who are these people? What is independent film? They're used to having, reporters from television stations or newspapers come, but I don't think people really understood what we were trying to do. It's a hard thing to convey, the independent film world. So we tried to explain what we were doing, and we kept going back, and we would never take no for an answer. Eddie knows this. We were pretty, we're persistent, with Mike Vickers. We actually filmed with him pretty early on, but we kept wanting to go on an operation, and he kept saying, well, I'm not sure, and I have to talk to the board of the Texas Border Volunteers first. And we kept asking him, and he kept saying the same thing, but eventually he let us go on an operation. So, we just kept persisting with the things that we thought were important. in terms of the sort of more balanced story that we told, I mean, I wonder if it's a sign of the time, because when we were editing this during the Trump administration, you know, there's so much division in our country that we didn't really want to make a film that was divisive. You know, we wanted to make a film about humanity. So I think we wanted to kind of avoid, you know, making law enforcement and border patrol, you know, the bad guys and these are the good guys, and, you know, that we're all human, you know, and I think that was the place, you know, everyone was at mentally in that time when we were editing. And so I think we were really conscious of trying to make a film that was going to speak to a lot of different audiences and not be.
That's no one's personal line. Just
it's Radio Shack, I think.
oh, right. Oh.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
It's a store here, and the sign
that
does announce a store, and then Radio Shack. I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "I got to go get the charger because it wouldn't work on my car, right?" And so, whatever reason, and I walked in here, and this guy Renee is very gracious. I mean, here I am at their counter, you know, around, you know, doing this and still plugged in and stuff. So, you know, he just picked up the phone, and you know, I just noticed that. They've got all kinds of good things around here, so it's very. I'm glad you asked me how I got here in terms of how this happened. You know, and I didn't give up. That's what it was. So we don't give up. You know, and I think that's our motto in terms of, you know, today, and the frustration in terms of there were 3 distinct bodies that were, you know, in terms of body. That there's there, and that we had 7 different trenches of, you know, burials. So it's really, really interesting in terms of, I've done this with Kate already for 7 years, and every cemetery is different, and every exhumation is also different. We encounter different things, and right now there's a lot of people that are coming into McAllen because of the children and what's going on, and so I've gotten a couple of calls already from previous media contacts, and, you know, say, "Hey Eddie, what's going on?" and, you know, touch base, and I said, "Well, we're doing exhumation," so now they want to come over here, you know. So and it's important, you know. Kate and I were talking that maybe a little press coverage in the beginning of a local community like this is, you know, gets people talking about it and becomes more anecdotal in terms of how they relate, you know, to the effort that's being on, because there's a lot of, you know, people going into cemeteries, visiting their own loved ones, and they want to know what's going on, you know. So there's the connection has to happen, and the connection does happen, you know. So we're it's always excited to be able to accomplish what we do, and I had to call out the county treasurer Pepita, and, you know, Kate said, "Well, we can wait till Monday," but I called her up. You know, figured out how to get her cell number, called her up, and she came out, and she says, "Okay, let's," you know, there's some question marks that we had. So it did facilitate, you know, questions that her whole team had, and my volunteers came in from Falfurrias. You know, they were putting out water, and they got into it and into the trenches and pulling out dirt and everything. So, you know, the crisis that exists, you know, needs to end, in the sense that, you know, people just want to get from point A, from their country, to point B over here in a regular manner. They don't want to have to go through a brush, or jump the river, or pay a coyote, or pay a smuggler. If we can regularize people can come and go, and you will see a more development of their own communities, because they're able to come and go. Once they get here, then they become captured in a sense that, you know, because you're not going to be paying $5,000 to $10,000 to a coyote every time that you want to go back to your country and then come back. So it can be fixed, you know, but the problem is that the the status quo is what the policy that people want. They want to be able to exploit and keep people vulnerable. And these, we're talking about essential workers, very, very, that it's already here, families are already here. They've already provided major service during this pandemic. So what's happening now is there's more of a due process in terms of the new administration and the transition of how bad the previous administration was to an administration that's respected the rule of law, which is due process, and having a more and respecting asylum claims in terms of what's going on. So we don't want to see people, die. We don't want to see people get lost. I don't want to, be having to rescue people, and but it is something that needs to be dealt with.
Lisa, as a documentarian, what sort of burden or maybe responsibility do you put on your shoulders to tell such sensitive stories in a very dignified way? Was that maybe an onus that you took upon yourself, or maybe talk a little bit about a documentarian's philosophy when talking about something that's, I guess, so delicate and so family focused, and so, I guess, enveloped in tragedy?
I mean, it's interesting that you asked that question, because right now I'm missing Omar and Michelle. Often either Omar or Michelle Roman join us in the Q&As, but they weren't able to make it today. So I was thinking about them. But yeah, I mean, when we made the film and finished the film and showed the film, to Kate and Eddie, I can't remember. The first person actually that saw the film was actually Juan Sr., Juan's dad, because there are images in that film that he needed to okay that were in the film. So he was actually the first person that saw the film before we finished it. And he was good with the film. He was, okay with the film, and really thought it was powerful. But then, we showed the Roman family the film, and, that's always a moment for the filmmaker. You hope that they're going to be okay with the film, that they're going to like it, see the value in participating in it. But, you never know what's going to happen. And they were really moved by the film. And Michelle is the sister-in-law, she and I texted for a good hour and a half to 2 hours after they saw it. They were very, very pleased with the film. And we were so relieved, but also just so happy that they felt that way. And then, we showed it to Kate and Eddie, and they also really support the film and supported our choices in the film. So, but yeah, I mean, of course you feel that responsibility because it's their personal story, and we hope that they're going to feel like we told it in a way that they are support, but kind of as a filmmaker, you're kind of not supposed to involve your participants in the making of the film. So it's not like we were showing them cuts, but we knew them, we know them, we've spent a lot of time with them. And so we were trying to, gauge that with, how we were telling their story. But it's always a relief to hear that the participants are supportive and happy with how it turned out.
Me cobraste por the.
And then I wonder, I guess beyond the documentary subjects themselves, what sort of, I know you said that while making the film, you try to be as objective as possible because of the given political climate that we're all facing. But I guess now outside of that situation, what are your hopes for audience reception or interpretation? Like, what do you hope they take away after watching your film?
Well, I teach at the University of Arizona. I teach undergraduates, and I showed my students recently the film, and we talked about it. And one of the students, I wish I could remember his comment exactly, but it was sort of like, I've never really had any sympathy for immigrants, illegal immigrants before. But after watching this film, I'm really seeing this situation in a very different light. He didn't say that exactly, but that's basically what he said. And I was like, yes, because when you make a film like this, of course, there's so many people that agree with the point of view of the film, that, in Arizona where I live and other places, of course, but you kind of want to reach those people that maybe don't know about these stories and that maybe, don't necessarily look at these issues in a humane way, that, we're all people, we're all trying to just live our lives the best way we can, and give our families the support that they need. So it was really great to hear that from that student, that that he that maybe his mind was changed a little bit by watching the film. And we think that lawmakers, when they see this film, they will really, when they meet the families in this film, they will really think of some of the inhumane border policies differently. So we're pretty committed to having this film not only reach a wide audience, which it will be on Independent Lens on PBS in the fall. So I think it will reach a very wide audience, but it will also get in front of the right people to really look at some of our policies that have been going on for decades that are just really inhumane, and all of these needless deaths and all of the suffering that's going on is just unnecessary.
Yeah. We've reached our 30 minutes allotted time. So I guess in terms of a few closing statements, Eddie, I want to pose you that same question that I asked Lisa. Since you're there you literally just said that you came from a site working today on the ground. What effect do you hope this particular documentary has as more and more people begin to watch it?
Well, to recognize the fact that a humanitarian crisis exists, and for a policy, a deterrence policy, prevention by deterrence policy that really doesn't work, and it's only causing death. So the more and more the film is distributed and with the general population and in different languages, I think hope to have some impact. You want to have impact in terms of changing status quo and changing the policy. So I think the story of the families and the pain that they go through does humanize things, and I think that's the most important thing that comes out of this film in terms of the policy. Death by policy should not happen. So that's the overall aspect in terms of the impact of the film.
Thank you, Eddie, for that. Lisa, I want to thank you for crafting such an intimate and delicate and thought-provoking documentary. As an immigrant myself who came from Mexico, I think I'm always, when I watch a documentary about immigration, I'm always a little bit, it's almost like an open wound in a way. But I felt great solidarity with the families that you portrayed and the platform you gave them to present their stories and their search, as well as Eddie's efforts to provide relief in an area that's desperate for relief. So Eddie, I think your efforts are heroic in scale, and Lisa, I just want to thank you so much for capturing what's this crisis that's happening in Texas. So thank you for sharing your documentary with us today. Do either of you have any maybe closing statements or anything that you'd like to share with viewers? The Q&A will be available on our YouTube channel and through Eventive as for the duration of that the film is available today. So people may be watching this at a later juncture. So if either of you have any maybe closing thoughts, it would be great if you could share them.
Moises, I want to ask you, what's your reaction to the border volunteer accusing me of, in the film, and of what he does accuse me of? How do you react?
of being a smuggler,
Yeah,
of being
being
complicit.
connected with a cartel.
It is.
For
I mean, my
No
jaw
idea.
was my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped. Absolutely, it was. I mean, the scenes. I don't want to make this about myself, to be honest, but the scenes with the ranchers who were patrolling the area, who seemed to be very militarized. They were very upsetting for me to watch as someone who, as an immigrant myself. What those people accused you of, I thought was ridiculous and beyond reproach. And there's a thing with the tank that's obviously polluted, and they say they put goldfish in it to clean it. It's just, I found those sequences very hard to watch, but I was so glad that the book of the documentary spent on you, Eddie, and the families, which I think, at least for my corner of the universe, are the voices that need to be amplified. And maybe the most dehumanizing comment I heard in the film was when a border patrol agent said that they stopped referring to the remains they find as people, and they just call them, I think they call them
subjects.
subjects, just to further dehumanize them. So, my heart was aching so much throughout this documentary, but like I said, and I think you brought this up numerous times, Eddie and Lisa, that the story is, or the focus is in the families and getting them peace of mind, and amplifying their stories. So I guess that's my perspective, but it's not about me. This is your forum. So do either of you have any other closing statements, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, if the viewers, well, thank you all for watching the film, those of you who did. And if you're interested in learning more about the film, we have a website. If you just Google Missing in Brooks County, you will get to our website, just like Michelle did. And you'll see on the website all of our screenings, and some of the press, a little bit more about everything. But also, if you are interested in donating to the South Texas Human Rights Center, there's a nice yellow button on the website that you can press to get to the website of the South Texas Human Rights Center, where you can make a donation. So the South Texas Human Rights Center runs on donations, and if you want to give a small donation, that would be really helpful to continue Eddie's efforts in Brooks County.
And I put the website down as a lower third, and we'll play it as we close out. Eddie, Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for giving us this gift of a film, and I wish you both all the best. Thank you so much for everything.
Thanks for having us, Moises. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.